Before we dive into coding, it's very important to understand the core concepts because Unreal Engine uses a slightly different approach compared to standard C++. So in this video, I will explain everything in simple and practical way, making sure that by the end, you will have a strong foundation to start building your own Unreal Engine projects. This video is completely theoretical based. First, you need to understand theoretical concept, and then I will show you how to implement all these concepts in my upcoming videos, and I highly recommend to understand all these concepts and watch my videos completely. So without wasting your time, let's get started. So first of all, let's understand why Unreal Engine chose C++ as its core programming language. C++ is known for its speed, efficiency, and flexibility, which is crucial for game development, unlike languages like Python or JavaScript. C++ gives us direct access to memory and hardware, making our games run faster and smoother. Now, Unreal Engine also has blueprints, which are a visual scripting system, but blueprints are great for rapid prototyping and simple game logic like UI interactions, animations, or triggers. But for complex gameplay mechanics, performance optimization, AI, and advanced features, we use C++. Most AAA studios use C++ for their game logic. Now let's talk about the building blocks of C++ programming, classes and objects. If I talk about the class, a class is just like a blueprint or template. Imagine you are designing a car and every car has wheels, an engine and a steering wheel. Instead of defining these parts every time, we create a car class that contains all these details. And if I talk about the objects, an object is an instance of a class. Instance means is the copy of another object but with different properties. And if we make 10 different cars in the game, each one is an object of the car class, but the object can have different values, like a sports car having high speed while a truck has high power. Now let's talk about variables and functions, which are essential in Unreal Engine programming. First, if I talk about the variable is used to store data. Let's say we are making a shooting game and we need to track the player's health, and we create a variable like player health, and the player health is 100. And now if the player takes damage, and we can decrease this value by the player health. And if I talk about the functions, a function is a building block of code that performs an action. Instead of writing the same logic over and over again, we put it inside a function and call it whenever we need it. For example, we create a function called take damage. Whenever the player gets hit, we just call take damage function and it will reduce the health by the take damage function. What is the benefit of the functions? Functions basically make our code organized and reusable, and that is the concept of the function. And the next concept is the constructor. Constructor basically is a special function that runs automatically when an object is created. Otherwise, it will not run automatically. If the object is created, then the constructor will call automatically. For example, if we spawn a new enemy, we want it to start with full health, have a weapon, and follow a patrol route. Instead of manually setting these values every time, we use a constructor. As soon as an enemy object is created, these values are automatically initialized. This makes coding faster and more efficient. Basically, constructor is only used to initialize the value and create something. Now let's talk about the pointers, one of the most important concepts in C++ and Unreal Engine, because most of the time we use pointers instead of simple variables. And a pointer is also a variable, but that stores the memory address of another variable. And if I talk about the simple variable is just store the data, but pointer variable is store the another variable address. But why is this important? In Unreal Engine, we often create and destroy objects dynamically. Let's take the example of the bullets in a shooting game. If we create a new bullet every time the player shoots, the memory will quickly fill up. Instead, we use pointer to manage objects more efficiently, and this helps in memory management, performance optimization, and avoiding crashes. And the next concept is inheritance. Inheritance is a powerful feature that allows one class to inherit properties from another class. Let's say we have a base weapon class that has the basic shooting functionality. Now, instead of rewriting the same functions for different weapons, we can inherit from the base class. This makes our code cleaner, reusable, and easier to maintain. And I will also implement in my upcoming lectures. And the next topic is very important, which is called polymorphism. In simple word, polymorphism means one function but different behaviors. Imagine we have enemy class with an attack function, different types of enemies like zombies, robots, and soldiers in our game, and that can all have different attack styles but still use the same attack functions. This makes our code flexible, expandable, and easy to maintain. They are the basic, simple and important concepts of standard C++. Don't worry, I will implement all the concepts in my upcoming shooting game videos. And the next concept is related to Unreal Engine. The previous all the concepts are related to the standard C++, but these concepts are related to Unreal Engine. Are important to understand the Unreal Engine concept. The first hierarchy concept is the object, and at the base level of Unreal Engine we have objects. These are the most fundamental building blocks in Unreal Engine, and everything in the game world, whether visible or not, is derived from an object, but objects alone don't appear in the game world. They are just data. Now let's talk about the next concept is actor. Actors are things that can be placed in the game. This includes things like walls, lights, weapons, props, enemies, and destructible items. Basically anything that exists in the scene. If you see something in Unreal Engine viewport, it is probably an actor. And then the next concept is the pawn. And a pawn is a special type of an actor that can be controlled by a player or AI. For example, a car in a racing game or an enemy robot in a shooter game would be a pawn. But pawns don't have built-in movement features. We need to add logic for that. And the next concept is the character class. A character is a more advanced type of pawn, and it is also inherited from the pawn, and it already has a built-in movement features like walking, jumping and animations. So when we make a player controlled character in Unreal Engine, we usually use the character class instead of just a pawn. And what is the difference between the pawns and character class? And pawn is used for non-humanoid and flying objects like vehicles and birds, and character is used for humanoid like our player, and character has built-in components like movement component and a capsule component. Capsule component basically the collision detection of the player, and a movement component basically handle all the movement of the character. And now let's talk about the next topic, which is Unreal Engine architecture. Unreal Engine architecture basically defines how the game actually works. The first thing to understand is the game mode. The game mode basically controls the overall rules of the game. For example, in a battle royale game like PUBG or Fortnite, the game mode decides when a match starts, how players win, and what happens when they die. And the next we have the player controller. This handles all the inputs from the player like moving, jumping, shooting, and looking around. Without a player controller, our inputs wouldn't do anything. Then we have a pawns and character class, which represent the player or AI control units. The player controller sends input to the pawn or character, telling it what to do. Finally, we have actors, which are all the objects in the world. This includes enemies, weapons, doors, and everything else that makes the game interactive. I already explained in my previous slide. So put it all together, the game mode sets the rule, the player controller possesses input, and the pawn or characters acts on that input, and actors are everything else in the world. Once we understand this system, we can start making interactive and fun gameplay. And the last but not the least, which is component. Component basically a smaller parts attached to the actors like camera, meshes and player bodies, and I will implement in my upcoming videos. Garbage collection is the most important topic in Unreal Engine, and how Unreal Engine works. In Unreal Engine, we don't need to manually delete dynamic objects like we do in standard C++. In standard C++, we need two different keywords like new and delete, but in Unreal Engine, we don't need to these keywords. The engine automatically removes unused objects using a system called garbage collections. It tracks which objects are still referenced and deletes the ones that are no longer needed. This prevents memory leaks and keeps our game optimized. And if I talk about the next topic, which is very most important topic in the Unreal Engine, which is reflection system. Unreal Engine's reflection system allows the engine to inspect and modify objects at runtime. This is useful for things like serializations, blueprints, and networking. To enable reflections, we use different macros, and there are the fundamental macros. For example, the first one is UPROPERTY. UPROPERTY basically is used for exposing variables to the Unreal Engine editor, blueprints, and garbage collections. And the next one is UFUNCTION. UFUNCTION basically is used for exposing functions to blueprints or making them callable by Unreal Engine event system. And the third one is UCLASS. UCLASS basically is used to define a class that Unreal Engine can recognize and manage. For example, if we want to expose a variable to blueprints and ensure that it is managed by the engine's garbage collector. And if I create the variable like health, and this allows the health variable to be edited in the Unreal Engine editor and accessed in Blueprint. This system is what makes Unreal Engine so powerful, and it allows C++ and Blueprint to work together seamlessly. Now, the end of this video, you should have a solid understanding of how C++ works inside Unreal Engine, which will make learning game development much easier. And don't worry, I will implement all the concepts in practical way in my upcoming videos. This video is just a theoretical, and you need to understand all the concepts practically, and I will show you how to use all these concepts in my upcoming lectures. So if you found this video helpful, make sure to like, share and subscribe for more Unreal Engine videos. See you in the next one.